Join us every Wednesday for InFocus, a weekly talk show produced by the SKNIS Information Service, where we provide exclusives with key persons within the government and discuss pertinent, relevant, and interesting matters that affect us all. Tune in every Wednesday, live on ZIZ Radio and streamed live on Facebook at SKNIS Media and ZIZ Online. InFocus, your government, your business.
Welcome to InFocus, a weekly program where we zoom in on what's happening within and throughout the government, your government. I'm Ian Richards. Over the past 8 months, the government of St. Kitts and Nevis has implemented a number of measures to improve healthcare within the Federation. New equipment was purchased, doctors and other support staff have been deployed to bolster care at various health institutions, and key appointments were made to strengthen administration within the Ministry of Health. Joining us today to discuss the impact of these measures is Dr. Jensen Morton, Director of Health Institutions within the Ministry of Health. Stay with us as we delve into your government, your business. Before we begin, we apologize for the absence of the Prime Minister, the Honorable Dr. Terence Drew, and also the Permanent Secretary within the Ministry of Health, Dr. Sharon Archibald, who was supposed to be here today. But with us, as we mentioned, of course, is Dr. Morton. Dr. Morton, welcome to InFocus.
Good afternoon. Thanks for having me.
So, first of all, can you tell us what is the scope of your responsibilities as the Director of Health Institutions?
Well, as the Director of Health Institutions, I'm the ultimate person that's responsible for all of the establishments within the Ministry of Health which are designated as the name pertains, institutions. This would be any place in which someone that's ill has to stay overnight at least. This would be JNF, General Hospital, Pogson Hospital, Mary Child's Hospital, as well as the Cardin Home.
Okay. So can you tell us what is the overall status of healthcare in St. Kitts and Nevis at this time?
Well, the overall status of healthcare in St. Kitts and Nevis, it's actually good and on the up and rising. There was a very good framework that was set in place many, many years ago. Whomsoever were the architects of that many years ago, some very intelligent people laid that framework. When you look at healthcare in St. Kitts, institutional healthcare, just the fact that despite being a small island, they were able to, from a long time ago, identify identify that we needed 3 health institutions, each of them specifically located 10 miles away from each other to ensure that no one is more than 5 miles away from any tertiary health institution. That's a big plus. And even with regards to the location of the health centers, specifically located such that no one is more than such that no one is more than 2 miles from any health center. That just lets you know that some intelligent people, they sat down many years ago and they put that in place. Now, building upon that foundation, we have now been tasked with ensuring that they're properly outfitted, ensuring that they're properly maintained, ensuring that the staff remains well trained, and just ensuring that they're fully equipped with everything that they need. So that's been our job, to ensure that we get those things done, that we modernize, that we keep up to date with regards to international practices. So
that 5-mile radius certainly would be important, given back in the day, of course, they used carts with horses, horse-drawn carts.
Or you walked.
Well, or walked, as the case may be, absolutely. So, can you tell us a bit about what it is your responsibilities are as the Director of Health Institutions?
Well, my daily responsibilities are many. So basically, I act as the ultimate authority for everything that's going on in the institutions. So every approval, every issue regarding staff, every issue regarding financing, in terms of securing financing, as well as having oversight of the management of financing, the ultimate person responsible for ensuring that there's quality patient care, ensuring that an oversight is kept with regards to the physical management that fall under my jurisdiction, as well as ensuring that proper planning is done, managing any acute crises, minimizing crises, ensuring that collaboration is done with different offices elsewhere in the Ministry of Health, just to ensure that all of those things are in place. And it should also be noted that under institutions, as a branch of a ministry, there are over 500 staff members which directly fall under my management. It's the largest subset of any ministry in the country, so it's a lot of responsibility.
So how do you cope with that management of 500 people? Certainly a lot, that's a lot. I'm just used to it. I'm just used to working really hard. So it's okay. Right, and working very hard. That's something that a medical practitioner has to do.
Can
you tell us about the transition from being a medical doctor to taking up a more administrative role within the ministry?
Well, health management, it's actually something that should be respected as being separate field from actual medicine itself. Health management is more on the side of being a social science. But when you have experience in the health field, especially if if you're someone that's witnessed the pluses and the minuses, and you've always been in discussion with regards to the ways in which things can be improved, when you finally get the opportunity, it's not feeling like a difficult transition, it's actually feeling like an amazing chance to actually rectify lots of things that you may have complained about before. So I think it's exciting, I like it.
You've been on the post for how long now?
I've been on the post since September 20th, so it's been just about 8 months.
Right, and you said that you like it. Care to explain a bit more in terms of the level of experience that you bring based on your background to this new position that you've had?
All right, well, I've been a medical doctor since 2014, so I was able to come to the field with 9 years experience in medicine. Also, I was lucky enough, of course, I trained overseas and I worked in Jamaica for a period, so I was lucky enough to also in St. Kitts, having worked in JNF and having worked in community and having worked in coverage for Pogson Hospital, I was able to get a feel of different aspects of the institutions, both in JNF as well as in the peripheral sites, as well as having an understanding of the community health system. Even though I'm not over community, I still know about the integration of community and institution for the overall health package. So I was able to come with a good background of having familiarity with all of those different parts. Also came with a lot of humility, willingness to learn, willingness to cooperate. And like I said, it's something that I've been thinking about for quite some time. So it's not that I entered and I had to get thrown into it. I was thinking about this for quite some time.
Mm-hmm. And your work experience in Jamaica, that would have contributed as well?
It also would have contributed because they have pluses and minuses. Their institutions are much larger than ours. Mm-hmm. So it allows you to have some appreciation for what's here, but at the same time, you are able to manage this smaller setting a little bit more efficiently. It wasn't in a managerial aspect, but still, you're able to understand that the problems that we have as large problems, they're small in comparison to in those other places. I also was able to get experience with regards to what they were doing there that was gold standard in terms of the international standard. So I was able to see what we were doing that wasn't up to standard. At the same time, I was able to see what we were doing that also was very good to make sure that those things are maintained, because I would have known how bad it could get if you let it get out of control, basically. So it was learning in both ways.
Best practices were imported.
Yes.
Right. Okay. So then you've been on the job for a while now, as we mentioned, a couple of months. Mm-hmm. Can you tell us what reforms that you have instituted? Of course, you mentioned that you had ideas going into. So what were you able to do?
Well, the reforms that were done, they weren't done in isolation. They were done with collaboration of the entirety of the health team that was put together. So the good thing about it was that not just myself, but also the Prime Minister, the Permanent Secretary, that would be Dr. Archibald, the new Director of Operations, that would be Mrs. Maynard, Mrs. Lindsay Maynard, and other members of the health team, including the health advisors. All of us, we were on the same page with regards to what we were thinking that needed to be done. So it was pretty easy to come together and to establish what it is that we actually need to do. So the first thing that we thought was really, really crucial was, from the feedback from different members of the general public, the main complaint that seemed to come with regards to healthcare in St. Kitts in general, it can be boiled down to different aspects of customer service. So that was identified early, and we already started partnership with the relevant bodies to get customer service training on board. It started formally, excuse me, it started formally finally a few weeks ago with Mrs. Delcia Bradley King, and it's going to be something that we're going to incorporate into the regular, let's call it indoctrination process of everyone that comes to work at JNF. We're also in discussion with CFBC to ensure that that aspect is also included with the nursing training even before you arrive at JNF, such that that aspect is well ingrained. And this training, we want it to be continuous on an annual basis or biannual basis, so everybody gets the refresher that this is what you do to ensure at the end of the day that the patients, their relatives, etc., that everyone is cared for properly. We've also...
But when you said everyone that works at JNF, does that you're talking about doctors, nurses, janitors?
Everyone is going to go through the customer service training. Even people that would work in desk jobs, maybe in administration, that you might not think come into contact with customers. Everyone in that hospital, in some way, they come into contact, even if it's from answering a phone, or if it's from someone coming to pass an inquiry, or if it's from someone that's a guest from somewhere that is passing through wanting information. Everyone has to fall through that same training. So that was one thing that was done. The second thing that was done, it pertained to basic life support as well as advanced cardiac life support training for as many staff members as possible. Essentially, the thought process was that if any emergency was to erupt in any part of the health institution, that regardless of the staff member that is present, that they can at least assist with the resuscitation of that patient. That is the end goal. We partnered with a group that was organized by Dr. Alpier. It actually was a partnership. He is the head of he's the head of human medicine in Ross. I'm trying to find the right terminology, but he's the one that makes sure that the actual students are healthy, the head of human medicine at Ross. He was able to organize for the first team to come in, and 220 workers were trained in that very first batch from both St. Kitts and Nevis. It was a collaborative effort, and some were trained in basic life support, some in advanced cardiac life support, and some also in pediatric assisted life support. So certification done in the first half of the month of November. So that was also something that was very important. And since then, we've also been engaging in some subsequent training, leadership training for the nurse managers and assistant nurse managers, leadership training for the physicians, training for all of the clerical staff with regards to having full understanding of all aspects of medical terminology, such that everyone's on the same wavelength, whether you come from a science background or not. Excuse me. So those were our investments with regards to different parts of the human resources, because that was something that was really, really important. Now, even though that was one of the major things, we had some other things that needed addressing. One of them was that, especially someone that came from working in the countryside most recently, the peripheral hospitals, Pogson and Mary Charles, they were not being adequately utilized because they were not staffed with medical doctors around the clock. When I was there and I worked in the community, the doctor was just on call, meaning nursing staff would be in the hospital and then you'd have to call the doctor for anything that's of a certain level of seriousness. That's not something a little bit easier to manage. That did not allow for state-of-the-art quality healthcare to be available to persons that lived in the rural areas. It was either you have to come to JNF for everything, or you go to Pogson and it's either a long wait, or you have to hope that the doctor happens to be there at that time if they were called already or something like that. So investigations were done to find out exactly how many doctors would be needed to outfit each of the 2 peripheral facilities, and we were able to find enough to be able to get that service available in Pogson, which was started on the 5th of October. The Sandy Point community and the surrounding communities, they've been very happy since we've had the service running. We've had a few hiccups since it's a pilot project. There have been some hiccups in which once in a blue moon there might be an issue with regards to the service, but we have tried our hardest to get 24-hour service there, and we've been able to achieve that for most weeks, most months. We've been able to achieve that with only 1 or 2 minor hiccups along the way. That was Pogson. Mary Charles is coming. We have some service available at Mary Charles now, but it's not 24/7 as yet. But that's the next goal that we think we should be able to achieve, hopefully, by the end of the year this year. Oh, yes.
That's quite comprehensive, and certainly the changes at the hospitals, that is particularly Mary Charles and Pogson, that is something that we'd want to delve into a bit later.
Okay.
But specifically, I wanted to ask you about the new equipment that was purchased as well for the hospital. We would have seen them in the news. Tell us a bit about that.
Okay, well, with regards to new equipment, the most recent purchase of new equipment, it would have been the equipment for ophthalmology, that's for eye surgery. When I came on board in September, I was informed, all of us, we were informed that some of the procedures had ceased earlier in the year, around June, because of some malfunctioning equipment for eye surgery. Upon investigation, we were able to see that the machinery was pretty old. It was in dire need of replacement. It was at a point in which, even if you repaired it, it would be a very expensive repair, and it's probably going to have some other component of it fall apart in a couple of days, 2 weeks again. So the Prime Minister made the decision to make the purchase of new equipment for eye surgery. This included a new state-of-the-art microscope, a $700,000 US state-of-the-art ophthalmic microscope, ophthalmic ultrasound, computer systems, software, surgical equipment, anesthetic equipment for eye surgery, etc. All of that was sent for purchase, and all of that had arrived. We are just doing the final bit of configuring, and we're going to get that back up and running within the next few days. So that was the major purchase that we did. Apart from that, we were able to source new dialysis machines, which have been put into operation, and the staff have been fully trained with regards to the utilization of these new dialysis machines. Oh, excuse me. And we also would have made a variety of other purchases of a number of different pieces of equipment that we needed as necessary. We were able to configure equipment to reintroduce mammography into the hospital. That's to do mammograms or studies to screen for breast cancer. Right. It was something that hadn't been done for quite a few years. You had to get it done privately, but that equipment, it was ordered, but we were able to get it configured. We're just in the final bits of the difficult part with regards to the hookup of the computer, of the technical aspects with regard to the computer software and those things. And then that should also be up and running shortly. So quite a few things have been done. We've even been able to get most recently, the donation of some more ultrasound machines from PAHO as well as from the Swiss Embassy, which should be up and running shortly as well. So quite a few things.
Major investments, as you mentioned, is very costly, but certainly important to improve the quality of healthcare here in St. Kitts and Nevis.
Yes.
Okay. And also, tell us a bit about, as you touched on, the partnerships with Ross University. Tell us a bit about the importance of having these type of partnerships with institutions, the offshore universities here in St. Kitts and Nevis.
Yes, well, the hospital, we have partnerships with a large number of institutions. It's not difficult to get the partnerships because at the end of the day, small country, there's no private hospital, nothing. So if anything happens to you, you're in the same hospital, so you might as well assist us in keeping it up and running to the best of its ability. Ross has been one of the leading institutions to assist us. They usually, if we have an issue, even if it's something that we might think it's unrelated, if we give a phone call to the representatives, they try to see if they could find a way to assist us in the best way possible. They've already pledged their support to assist us with regards to the psychiatric ward, which we're going to be discussing to try to get those arrangements finalized within the next few months. They also would have assisted us, like I said, with the first run of the basic life support and advanced cardiac life support training. They assisted us with aspects of oncology. Oh, that's something I didn't mention. We also configured a new oncology cabinet. That's a piece of machinery to assist with the mixing of the medication that's used for the treatment of cancer, the dangerous chemicals used for the treatment of cancer. But Ross also were the ones that assisted us with regards to all aspects of the configuration of changing of the old cabinet to the new cabinet, assisting us with the recertification and all of those things. So they've really helped us a lot. Apart from them, we have been making partnerships with the different embassies. The Swiss embassy, they've really come through. They assisted us last year, and they've again come forth and given us assistance this year. We always get assistance from PAHO. The bulk of what we do in our lab right now, about half of everything that we do right now in the lab, it comes courtesy of our partnerships with PAHO. So they really help us tremendously with equipment, with training for staff, with software, with everything. They've helped us tremendously. And a variety of other organizations from, some have pledged support, some have stated their willingness to support us, and it's just for us to finalize some aspects of the processes. So we've been grateful for everything.
Dr. Morton, we're going to take a quick break, so we'll be right back with more InFocus, and you stay with us, our viewers at home. We'll be right back. Welcome back to InFocus. We're having a discussion with Dr. Jensen Morton, the Director of Health Institutions within the Ministry of Health. Dr. Morton, we spoke a bit about the services at the Mary Charles Hospital and at Parkson Hospital as well, so the importance of the expansion of the services there. Can you tell us a bit about how that has been impacting persons within that community and surrounding communities as well, in terms of accessing overall health care?
Yes, well, I know that the communities that feed into Parkson Hospital, the approximately 12,000 or so people that live in that area that feed in Parkson Hospital, they've been very grateful. The word has spread now that you can see a doctor at Parkson now, so lots of persons have been utilizing the service and they're very grateful. Of course, for anything that's deemed severe, they can be stabilized properly and they can be sent to JNF as needs be. And we are looking towards increasing the capabilities of Parkson by fully utilizing everything, every resource that we have available there. When the hospital was originally built, which was something I asked questions about way back in 2019 when I first started doing work in Parkson, when I did a little walkthrough which was facilitated for me back then. In the back part of the hospital, you know, we entered the door and there was an entire X-ray room that was there. And I was asking questions. I said, I didn't know Pogson did x-rays. And they said, no, when it was first built, again, wise people from before, when it was first built many years ago, they built it with an x-ray room. But because of issues with staffing and other things, it's just never been used. So it even had equipment in it that it just never was used for 15, 16 years. So we have intentions to utilize what was put in place by those wise people and to get it up and running with everything stationed such that even if it can't be a 24-hour service for at least some points in the day, if you need to get a radiological study, that some of them at least can be done at Pogson utilizing that room. There was even a space to the back. When I asked what was this space for, they said it was supposed to be a small laboratory. I said a lab was supposed to be here. There is no lab here now. We put the equipment there, but it still would need some configuration. And in speaking with some of the members of staff at the lab at JNF, they all are saying that they don't mind going on a system to do their own little rounds through Pogson whenever it is up and running, and they've shown their interest. So even the staff is interested in rotating through and to assist the community in receiving that quality of care. With Mary Charles doesn't have the same advantage of Pogson. The infrastructure wasn't there to be taken advantage of.
And it's an older hospital.
It was recently refurbished, but it was refurbished with a view to fix up what was there already, not really refurbished with a view to add on and annex or anything like that. So for there, we will have to put a little bit more thought that might not be able to be done maybe for another year or so, but to basically offer the same quality of healthcare and the same facilities there, even if it's to retrofit a container or one of those things, just to make sure that the same facilities can be placed there. So with Mary Charles, like I said, we don't have the 24/7 doctor coverage at Mary Charles as yet, but we are working on it. We are trying to improve our pool of medical staff. We don't have the largest pool of medical staff in St. Kitts. We're working on it. And when it becomes possible, that is when we will work on that part. So I know that the communities are grateful for those expansions. We have some other expansions in mind. In speaking with the representatives of the different constituencies around the Bastia area, that would be 1, 2, 3, and 8, coupled with the fact that persons have still been saying that, they think that sometimes the wait that they have to undergo in JNF, they still think it's a bit long. It's actually not that long when you compare it internationally, but it's St. Kitts and it's a small place, so if you come, you expect to get through faster than anything that you see overseas. So we are looking at expanding the services that are offered in specific health centers in the Bastia area, and we're going to take it step by step. We are thinking that the one to start with would be Newtown Health Center, just to see how the expansion of those services, if it could decrease the overall burden on JNF, as well as give persons in these communities easier access to different aspects of medical care.
And that certainly is important, which actually was my next question for you in terms of the expansion of services at the health centers. I know the Prime Minister would have referenced also having the possibility of expanding hours so that persons, when they're out at work, when they get home, the health center is closed at 4, they miss out. So that's important, having the extra hours so that they can access the proper health care rather than having to go to the hospital.
Yes, that would really help. Health centers, they're not really under my jurisdiction, but I can speak a bit about it on behalf of the Director of Community Health. Like I said, the health centers that we were looking at for this expansion at this point in time are Newtown, Bastia Health Center, and St. Peter's Health Center. Those are the 3 largest ones that we have. That's the largest volumes of patients. And the expanded hours that they're looking at is 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. We're trying to ensure that we have enough staffing to make this a reality. So as we said, Newtown Health Center would be the first one that we commission to try to have the medical doctor present Monday to Friday, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., to expand the clinics that are there, which will include a mental health clinic. We're trying to do a sorting with regards to an antenatal clinic, where that one might or might not come through. It might just be to uplift the services at JNF itself. But if it comes to that, it would be very good. Foot care clinic / vascular care. We're looking at enhancing HIV/STD screenings being done at the health centers as well, and just overall to give it the ability to be able to function as another area in which you can seek healthcare for your mild to moderate complaints, such that the serious complaints alone are the ones in JNF, so that we can cut down on people saying that, they came to JNF sometimes with a milder complaint and that they had to wait for many hours, and people are saying we were dealing with this car crash and this and this and this. So those can be seen in a timely manner. And also to ensure that the service is available. Not everyone can afford to go to the private doctor all the time for some of the smaller complaints, and sometimes what you perceive as a smaller complaint is serious. It's just that it needed to be seen. So it's just to ensure that the access of care is there.
And being based within the community itself, that certainly is a strategic advantage.
Yes.
Right. And in terms of the Newtown Health Center now, based on the services that you said are being looked at, does that mean that there would have to be some sort of physical expansion of the infrastructure, or is it currently there?
It's currently, Newtown is large enough. That's why we are starting with Newtown. The other two health centers that really could use this service as well, those would need some infrastructural work to make it as good as possible. St. Peter's is already undergoing its own expansion, and the Bastia Health Center is scheduled to also undergo an expansion, hopefully before the conclusion of this year, to have it started. So eventually, all three would be brought on stream.
There are times when persons cannot make it to the hospital where they would have to call the ambulance.
Yes.
Of course, in a serious accident or for emergencies, the ambulance is there for that. And there has been a recent thought that has been thrown out there by the Prime Minister, in the sense that having the skills of the EMTs upgraded so that they can become paramedics, where they're able to offer a bit more medical assistance to persons when they are being transported from a scene or from their homes to the hospital. What can you explain to us about that?
That also was one of the things that was looked at very quickly by the Prime Minister when he took office. The EMT system, which we all would have met in place, it was working, as in the persons were working and they were doing their duties, but it really was suboptimal. And we looked at it and we realized that there's lots of scope for improvement with regards to those services. The entire organization of the emergency medicine technicians, it was all reviewed, and it's now being that team is now being head by Dr. Joylette Woodley, who's also the chief of surgery. I'm not sure how she does it, but when persons are just willing to take things under the umbrella, you just have to use it, because she's right now general surgeon, head of surgery. She's running the EMT program. She runs a program here at ZSZ. She's president of the Medical Association. But she chose to take it under her wing, and she really took off with it.
And she still operates efficiently, of course.
And she's still able to get it done. But she really took off with the EMT service. They are getting the coordination with regards to training and different aspects of their training. That's always been a bit of a handicap. We did not have the facilities here to train persons to the level of being a paramedic. To move from EMT basic to EMT intermediate, you would have to get that training done again overseas, and I think we only had 1 or 2 that had reached EMT intermediate, and we have like 40 EMTs. So it wasn't we didn't have that many people reaching that level. So with the reorganization of those aspects of the training, we are hoping that more of the EMTs can reach the level of EMT intermediate, and hopefully to also reach full-blown the level of paramedic. And we have different training workshops that are always ongoing. We're looking over at all of the different protocols with regards to having set standards with the ways in which different things are done by the different members of the EMT service, more training with regards to driving skills, aggressive driving, quite a few things. And just from the reforming of the system, we found lots of skill sets in-house. We found some of the EMTs full-blown, they were mechanics, and they were not being utilized. We had to outsource every time something happened with the ambulance, and they were saying, I'm a certified mechanic, you know, but they're just not using me. And then we started using them for that purpose. All of a sudden now, the ambulances, they're not down as often, and they're getting all of the checks they're supposed to get in-house, and different things like that that we've been able to properly utilize in the system. So the EMTs have seen some improvement, and I think EMT week is coming up, and I know they're planning all of the activities for that week. So that's when they will get to explain to the general public in their own words all that they have done and all that they plan to do.
And importantly to mention, as you mentioned, some of them would be certified mechanics. That would have to buy into making sure that they take care of the ambulances.
Very much so.
Right, certainly a lot of investment there. Okay, is there a time frame for when you would like to see them being upgraded to level 2?
That takes a while. We're trying to work in collaboration, excuse me, we're trying to work in collaboration with CFBC, because CFBC is an accredited institution that can do trainings of that type in their health department. So we're trying to see how that part can be collaborated with them such that they can get the training and get fully certified from there, hopefully within the span of the next 2 to 3 years, give or take, and then we'll go from there.
Dr. Morton, a challenge in St. Kitts and Nevis, and of course around the world, so, but here in the smaller island there's a bit of a stigma surrounding mental health. Persons don't like to talk about mental health, and I imagine that it would be even more challenging for some men as well too. Tell us, what is the Ministry of Health doing to tackle mental health?
Well, with regards to mental health, on the institution side, the JNF Hospital, it continues to offer the best quality that it can to persons that are negatively afflicted by mental health conditions. But we are looking towards the improvement and expansion of the psychiatric unit that we have. We are currently in some discussions. I wish Dr. Archibald was here. She actually worked in mental health a bit, and her being the PS, it really is something that she's taken under her umbrella. But we are looking at some options ranging from, I have to be specific, ranging from the construction of a new psychiatric facility to focus on all different aspects of mental health to the upgrading of the existing mental health treatment infrastructure that we have on site in the hospital. It's going to vary depending on the accessibility of particular things. But whichever one, an improvement with regards to the infrastructure layout is coming. Apart from that, the Mental Health Treatment Center in Limekeen, there is also some work being done to expand and improve the quality of services being offered there. Again, Dr. Archibald would have been working there, and she could have spoken about some of those things. Apart from that, we are looking towards expanding the services with regards to ensuring that the mental health team is a lot more all-encompassing to be able to tackle different ailments such as aspects of anxiety and depression, those which tend to go undertreated in society, and those in which persons feel as if it has a stigma, so they don't really like admitting it. So we're not just doing psychiatric work, but also we're looking towards expanding the psychological services being offered in the institutions, again in collaboration with the Mental Health Day Treatment Center. We're looking at other things with regards to increasing the pool of available medications that we use, improving the different types of therapies that we offer, not just medication alone, but all of the different types of therapy from occupational go all the way down the spectrum, and also looking towards enhanced training of the different staff members, not just in the hospital, but in other areas of government, to be able to deal with persons with mental ailments a lot better, especially the police force, etc. Because sometimes when someone might see someone that's acutely mentally ill, their instinct might be to call the police thinking that something dangerous is happening. And it's just to ensure that those first responders, that they are trained with regards to being able to properly handle persons with those ailments without abusing those same persons. It takes a special training, so we're trying to encourage all of that to come on board.
Well, Dr. Morton, let me ask you, you've given a very comprehensive outlook of what is being expected, what is happening and what we can expect moving forward within healthcare and the improvements of healthcare in St. Kitts and Nevis. What drives you personally at the end of the day to do your job?
At the end of the day, the drive that I have is that all of us are in this country, all of us are on this island, and at any point in time, any of us can become ill from anything. And keeping the health services top quality, it means that not only are you looking out for the best interests of the citizens, but you're also looking out for the best interests for yourself and your loved ones. Because if anything happens to any of us, we have to go to the same hospital. It's not everything you can fly out for. Even if you're thinking of flying out, it's not everything you can fly out for. Every day in the hospital, you would see persons coming in that you would have seen the day before and they just got into a car crash or something, and now they urgently need all of the systems to be up and running and perfectly functioning such that they can keep themselves, if not alive, they can have the best possible outcome. And you can't afford to drop the ball anywhere such that someone receives harm or someone does not get the help that they're supposed to get due to something of that nature. So it forces you to always work, always ensure this is done, always ensure that is done. It's just something that has to play on your mind, that all citizens, the same way how you would want the best for yourself, that all citizens deserve access to that quality of care. And from the time you get that mindset, you never run out of energy.
And what can we as a community do to assist with that?
I think the main thing that the community can do is to try their hardest to please try their hardest to stay healthy and be safe. I think that's the easiest thing. A lot of the challenges that we face in hospitals, some expensive things too, they're linked to chronic diseases and diseases secondary to lifestyle choices and obesity and things like that. We need to be making better lifestyle choices. I know this is more the hospital side, but this is now the preventative medicine side. We need to be making better lifestyle choices, better health choices. Things, I mean, just to get a little bit of time to speak my mind a bit, I mean, be careful because, we see in the psychiatric unit persons coming with acute mental illness secondary to a myriad of different use and abuse of different drugs or even alcohol. We're not in the process, or we're not in the habit, of incriminating the use of some of these agents anymore. But at the same time, if you know that you have family history of X and Y, just be responsible, because all of that, it worsens the overall health outlook for yourself. Have wiser choices with regards to what you choose to consume. The Ministry of Health is going to be trying its best to assist by pointing you in the right direction to see what subsidies can be placed on fresher produce, as well as, people don't like this part, but as well as just increased taxation on things that are less healthy, reviewing certain foods to not allow the importation of certain foods that are not the healthiest, ensuring that you're not doing things like drinking and driving. The most expensive things that we face are motor vehicle accidents, and half of them involve somebody being drunk of some sort, and things like kidney disease and cancer are strongly linked also to obesity and bad lifestyle choices to some degree. So if persons would just take better care of themselves, it'd make everything a lot easier with regards to what we have to do on our end. So, but they can still look forward to quality health care regardless of what may befall upon them.
Certainly a conversation starter, what we had today, because there's so much more that we can discuss when it comes to healthcare in St. Kitts and Nevis, and not just with yourself, but of course with other health professionals. But we certainly would love to have you back on our program sometime. Dr. Jensen Morton, the Director of Health Institutions within the Ministry of Health, thank you so much for joining us today on InFocus. And thank you for being with us. I'm Ian Richards. Be sure to join us next week at the same time, at the same place, for another edition of InFocus.
Join us every Wednesday for InFocus, a weekly talk show produced by the St. Kitts Nevis Information Service, where we provide exclusives with key persons within the government and discuss pertinent, relevant, and interesting matters that affect us all. Tune in every Wednesday, live on ZIZ Radio and streamed live on Facebook at SKNIS Media and ZIZ Online. InFocus, your government, your business.